Now, what about the people? Now, you have to understand, I voted for Bush twice. I supported the Iraq War until just a couple of years ago. I worked for the defense establishment for 16 years. So you know where I come from. But the people who were classified as pacifists, the people who did not, or maybe non-interventionists is a better term, did not want to get us involved in World War II. In hindsight, were they the wiser, and should we have listened to them in that regard?
Well, you have to be careful. I mean, there really was a Hitler. He really was built up. He really was a threat. He was doing nasty things. So, like I said, what they do is through coercive means, they present you with a sort of fait accompli where you really don't have much of a choice. It's like the economic crisis. Oh, my goodness, look, the housing market collapsed. Well, what they did was they allowed leveraging to go from 12 to 1 up to 40 to 1. They knew what was going to happen, but then when you have this big collapse, you say, what do we do? Do we just roll over and die? Well, no. Reluctantly, we'll have to let them take over AIG, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, General Motors. We don't like to, but there you go. We got to go along with this. And so that's what they do. They'll create crises. Oh, my goodness, a terrorist attack. Well, we want our freedoms, but hey, let's have Homeland Security Act and Patriot Act, which infringes upon our freedoms. So they use these coercive means so that it appears that the public is actually saying, we want this stuff. We want more government control. As Orwell said in his book, 1984, you will come to love Big Brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, I guess what I'm getting at is, I can remember hearing a 60s song from young people saying, the war is canceled due to lack of interest. If the public had said, we're not buying what you all are saying in the media about getting involved in this European war, yeah, we're hearing horrible stories. As I understand, there were a lot of lies told in World War I about the Germans to make sure the Americans got involved. And we're not debating whether Hitler was horrible and did horrible things. That's understood. But he had to have resources to accomplish it. And that's the question where he got it from. But regarding people deciding on the war, if the public had just said, we smell something fishy here, we're not going to participate, would the elites have lost interest if they found the public wasn't buying it, or would they just simply arranged worse and worse Pearl Harbors until they finally broke the will of the public to buy into it?
Well, they wouldn't really have to create a separate sort of additional Pearl Harbors. What they would do is you create this sort of movement. The American public, they know, is wanting more isolation. They're very tired of war. They had World War I. You have the America First crowd. You have Charles Lindbergh saying, we need to stay out of this war. It's a European war. Don't get involved, and so on. And so then you have this sham of Pearl Harbor, where we knew in advance what was coming. Now, if that hadn't worked, what they continue, the pressure. In other words, they would say, okay, Hitler now has taken over Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary. If we don't get in, there goes England. And what happens is you will reach a certain point where economically it really affects you terribly if you don't do something. Let's bring it up to today. People might say, oh my goodness, we made a mistake with the GATT and the NAFTA and the World Trade Organization. This globalism is horrible. We have seen the light. Let's get out of it. Well, the system is set in such a way that if you get out of it, you destroy yourself. There is the extension of, multinational corporations overseas with factories and funding, so that if you do pull back, then their stocks will plummet, where your 401ks, they're invested in those stocks. So you find a public which says, well, I don't like it, but I need my retirement account. I need my pension, so I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't want to, but I'll keep my mouth shut. So like in World War II, at some point, Hitler's progress would have been so great that it would adversely affect us. World War I basically was that. We were out of it, and then they finally reached a decision in Congress. So, our investment, we got a lot invested in the Allies over there, the Triple Entente. And so to protect our investment, we'll just, look at there, the Lusitania, and, control of the press. Only the Des Moines Register printed the German warning that Lusitania was carrying not only American passages, but armaments for England, and so they were going to sink it. Now, think about that. Why wouldn't the press want the public warned not to go into Lusitania because the Germans said they were going to sink it? So the press is complicit in a lot of this stuff.
It leads to me to believe the only alternative, and this is wishful thinking, I know, is for the public to insist on being an independent, self-sufficient, liberty-loving people that keep their nose in their own business.
Yeah, but they've been conditioned to not do that. 50 years ago, you could find a lot of those people. But the conditioning process, I can't overemphasize, it's not just the culture, the art, the music, and so forth. But the schools have pounded and pounded youngsters as they came up through the system with this idea of moral relativism. And that's why when the schools today say, well, we're teaching what we all can agree on, like honesty, and everybody, all the Christians say, yeah, sounds good to me, yeah, honesty. Well, my question is, what kind of honesty? And they'll say, well, what do you mean, what kind of honesty? Well, is it biblical honesty or humanistic honesty? And here's the difference. Everybody does things based on situations. But who's the authority? For example, this World War II. Hitler captures you. You're sitting there, Hitler says, tell me where all the Jews are, I'll blow your head off. Now, as a Christian with God as a moral authority, no greater love hath a man than to sacrifice his life for his neighbor. So you say, okay, kill me, I'm not going to tell you where the Jews are. A humanist, on the other hand, he might do that, but he also might say, hey, I don't believe in God. This is the only life I get. Sure, Hitler, the Jews are over there because I don't want my head blown off. Then that's the difference as to, what kind of honesty. For a humanist, honesty is based on situations. Like, in other words, there can be times when it's good to be dishonest.
Right.
Because I am the authority. It's like Eve. When Satan tells Eve in the Garden of Eden, you will be as gods, he said, knowing the difference between good and evil. Before that, Adam said, yes, God, we won't do this, we will do this. But when Eve makes that decision, what she is saying, not thy will be done, God, but my will be done. I am my own God. And so that's the difference between the humanistic teaching that they're putting out in the schools and biblical authority.
And the elites believe who run these particular groups, these humanistic groups, even in government, the departments of education and welfare and these other things, they believe they have that knowledge to be able to make those decisions on behalf of the public and to instruct them as such, I believe.
Oh, yeah, like I said, the noblesse oblige, the nobility, we know what's best. We have the breeding, the education, we'll take care of you. Trust us. We'll do things, that are good for you. Just take our word for it.
Would you be so kind as just to give us 10 minutes to wrap up? Are you feeling okay?
My throat's getting, and like I think I told you, I need to attend my mother as well.
Okay. Well, then we'll wrap up here. Can I get one last comment then from you?
Sure.
All that we've heard about the Rhodes Plan, and we'd love to have you back to flesh it out more because you have so much information on it. This whole plan of putting people in these key leadership positions to invoke some worldwide benevolent control of the people sounds exactly what we have been reading about the Christian dominionists. And it sounds like they're using Rhodes' playbook of trying to get their people in leadership position. They call them the 7 mountains of societal leadership or influence, where they're putting their people in this, and they actually intend not to have a pluralistic society where everybody lives by their own conscience, to invoke what they believe are God's commandments in their own view, in these key institutions and decision-making positions, and they have a plan worldwide, and that's why they're part of this democracy spreading around the world to spread, the Christian democracy and things like this. Are they actually using the same kind of techniques in your view to try to bring this about?